Hi, host Eric here. Host Talking with Faith People, and your guide on a nature adventure. Now it's Sunday night. We got just a couple of people here. Eric is maybe intermittently here, and Pepsi is here as well. Mega Bro just bailed. It's a quiet time, a time for nature. Now, as an NT myself, I can tell you that going out into nature is not something that I do prioritize very often. But I will also say that it's something that I often think I ought to prioritize more. I like nature a lot. I like going out into the woods and stuff. I like cool and rain and clouds and trees and stuff like that. I like the lack of symbols. And I think in general NTs may underserve their need to be in that kind of environment that's not filled with symbols, representations, and logic and stuff like that. Pepsi, do you go very often out into the wilderness?
Not really.
Do you sit in front of your computer a lot?
Yeah.
Me too. How about you, Eric? Do you go out in the wilderness very much? You're INFJ. We'll see what he has to say about that. Hi, Zach Attack. Do you go out in the wilderness very often?
Well, I should, but I usually end up sitting at my computer.
Do you live near the wilderness?
Yeah.
See, I live near some kind of wildernessy stuff. You know, it's not that far, so it's just basically being lazy or just prioritizing other things. Prioritizing this a lot, but I think it's important. I think it's important to get away from symbols, because if you think about it, we're always constantly surrounded by all these letters and numbers and written words and icons and stuff like that. Okay. Well, my take on this from a cognitive perspective is pretty straightforward. It says that the experience of nature is one of primarily SI. That for somebody like an EHP anyway, the experience of the drive to go to nature is one of a drive to experience the individual human body of the self in a different environment, in an environment that asks it to be of the environment rather than detached from the environment. I think this is common for probably a lot of N types, that we tend to detach from the environment. I think NTs are even worse about it because we don't relate it to our individual feelings so much, and so we end up putting that as a low priority. It's either not in our stack or it's down near the bottom. INTPs, I think, are a little bit better about getting outside in an occasional camping trip or something like that than are ENTPs or INTJs or ENTJs, because they tend to be a little bit more like, well, I need to make sure I have plenty of time set aside for my personal reflection and that kind of thing. So it's consistent with that they have a little bit more respect for their SI, that they treat it with a little bit more of a active hand than does an ENTP who has it in the fourth slot. Naturally going to be the case. Now, normally I think people would associate outdoorsiness with SE, but I dispute that and say SE is not necessarily wildernessy, outdoorsy. I would say that SE likes the beach. SI is much more likely to like the mountains. This is just a random theory I came up with right now. It's because the beach is uncomfortable. The beach has sand, and the beach is not fun. The beach is not nice, and nobody likes the beach. But the mountains are cool because they don't have sand, and there's shade, and it's not so activity driven. You can enjoy the outside without being activity driven about like going into the water and going surfing or whatever like that. So I think SI is much more of a mountainsy kind of a thing, and SE is more of a beach thing. Regardless of that, I find it's important for the types that are the rationals, to have an opportunity to experience some of the non-rational stuff that makes perfect sense anyway to them. It's like it doesn't necessarily make sense to us, all the feeling stuff. But what does make sense to us is a nice time in a nice area outside where we like it and we like the temperature and the weather and all that kind of stuff. We can all understand that, and it helps us, I think, to bridge the gap between rationalism and non-rational human experience. Any thoughts on that, Pepsi?
I've noticed that most of the people that like camping tend to be SJs. And a lot of them, they say things, I've heard this, where they like saying, it's so nice, to live out in the wilderness. And they, a lot of times they like reference like how people lived in the past and experiencing that.
That's true. It may be sort of a nostalgia for a shared human past. I mean, it's quite feasible to imagine that an SI dominant person or somebody with SI high in the stack would prefer to frame things through historical reference points like that. I like that idea. That the SI heavy people are gonna link better to their pioneer days that they never experienced, right? Their make-believe idea of pioneer days. It was just like this in the pioneer days. Really? It was? They had Coleman camp stoves back then too?
I despise camping.
Well, maybe you haven't gone camping with the right people.
True.
If your camping trip well, this is what I think. I think you need to be more actively plotting your life events on a timeline of some sort so that you can gather data about them. So you go, alright, I didn't like camping this time. I'm going to try camping in these various different permutations. One of them is going to be fun, I bet. Or at least gather the data. Think of it as data gathering. Think of all the shit you don't like to do, but you think you don't like to do, but you don't really know you don't like to do it, as data gathering. Do you like to go hiking?
No.
Do you like to play ping pong down at the rec center?
Yeah.
That's pretty active. Do you like to ride your bicycle down steep mountain cliffs?
I don't really like riding bikes or anything.
Do you like judo?
Nah.
How about windsurfing?
No.
Hang gliding?
No. I'm very unathletic. So.
Do you enjoy yachting?
No.
No yachting. How about polo?
No.
Have you ever played polo?
No.
Me neither. Do you want to play polo?
Not
Zack
really.
Attack, have you ever played polo?
No.
Do you know anybody who's ever played polo?
Is it like water polo?
No, you get on horses. You each have a big hammer thing, like a big croquet mallet. And it's basically horseback croquet soccer.
I
Polo.
feel like you'd have to have kind of a horse riding skill set though to be able to play that.
All right. Well,
You have to know how to ride a horse. I don't know how to ride a horse.
you don't know how to ride a horse? They do most of the work. You kind of just have to sit there on top of them. You don't really have to do anything, I don't think. You just kind of steer them around and go.
So what, the horses kind of take you where you need to go while you're playing polo?
Well, you got to steer them.
Like, is the horse playing or are you playing?
I mean, if you were playing, imagine if you were playing soccer but in cars, so you don't have to run around, and with sticks instead of your feet. Would you say the cars are playing soccer? You still say you're playing, you're just driving the car. What I'm just
Yeah,
saying
but then
is,
you're doing.
go ahead.
Well, basically, what I'm saying is, how do you control a horse?
Well, I'm not saying you'd be good at playing polo, okay? Look, I'm not saying, Zack Attack, that you'd be a good polo player. I'm just saying that you could play polo. We could all play
Okay.
polo. We could. I really want someday, at one of my eventual Talking with Famous People conventions, I want to have a mule polo game. So it'd be fairly slow motion polo. We'd be on mules instead of horses, and they'd be like petting zoo mules, so they're really slow. Okay, I think that'd be fun. Would you participate in that, Zack Attack, if I had a mule polo game?
If I felt as though I could control the mule without the mule like
If we
barking me off or something.
if we get you the most calm mule of all. I mean, I think mules are pretty calm in general. I don't think the problem is
Well,
they're
it's
going to
not
buck you
about-
off. They're kind of lazy.
It's not about the temperament of the mule. I think it's more about knowing what I have to do to control it.
I think you just pull this way on the rein if it wants to go left, and you just pull this way if you want to go right.
And then like kick it in the guts to make it go forward.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to just be able to go like this, right? And it's supposed to go. But if it doesn't go when you go like that, then you give it a little nudge with your heel in the belly. You say, come on, move it along, mister.
I feel like I could manage that.
Yeah. But don't kick him too hard because you don't want to hurt him. I always, when I've ridden a horse in the past, I've been very gingerly about the kicking part. I don't like the kicking part, right? Like, I don't want to kick the horse. And so the horseback riding person who I've gone horseback riding with, there's like a person who's in the front who leads the rest of the horses around, you know. And I was like, no, you got to kick it a little bit. You got to put a little bit of foot into it. And it's like, I don't want to kick the horse that much. Hi, Bo. So, Bo, I want to have a mule polo contest. I want to have
Yes.
I want to have a Talking with Famous People convention with a mule polo contest, where we get mules and polo mallets and a polo ball, and we play mule polo.
I think that's the only way to solve our problems.
I think so. I think before anybody can qualify to be run for president, they need to have not only played in but been on the winning team of a game of mule polo. I think that's a fair criterion.
At an Olympic level.
Of course, at an Olympic level. Of course. The fact that it wasn't a demonstration sport this year, I just can't get it through my head. Why wouldn't you include mule polo? Some people say, well, if you're going to have mule polo, wouldn't it be better to just have regular polo? But my answer is no. That's dangerous. Okay, so what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, we're talking about nature. Do you like to go to nature, Bo? Let's go out in the wilderness, out of the trees and stuff?
Oh yeah, I love nature. I love going out and camping.
You like camping. Okay, because Pepsi here was saying he doesn't like camping. And my point was, well, I'll just try camping some more. And he's like, nah. And so what do you like about camping, Bo?
It really sets off my SI so that I feel more like overwhelmed by my environment.
Yeah. You're like more part of the environment, right? Like the body is like I don't normally think about my body a whole lot, but when you're out hiking and camping and stuff, you can't help but avoid thinking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. Well, whatever that weird combination of words there was. Do you go often? Like, what kind of camping do you go to? Desert, mountains, beach, what?
Forest.
Forest. How big? What kind of trees? Pine.
Any kind of trees. I don't know.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out what kind of forest it is. Like, because the forest near me is what you call a like a desert scrub kind of a forest. There's pine trees. It's a pine forest, but it's pretty dry, you know.
I like being next to a body of water.
Me too. We don't really have that much that around here. I like bodies of water as well. I want to go on a trip sometime when I go out to like a cabin in the deep, deep, deep Canadian wilderness and stay there for like a week. That'd be cool. Let's end this video. Thanks for watching. People.